Okay, well, let's just jump into it then. Probably gotta wait for UE5. So I guess I'll go ahead and start with who's on the dev team. You've got Chris and myself are always working on Cyrene, no matter what. The rest of the team, however, floats between Creative Kingdom and Cyrene depending on what we need. And it all varies on what projects are going on with CKA and what projects are going on with us. Usually, we communicate with each other about, hey, this is what we're going to be doing in the game. For the game division, we need XYZ people. Sometimes a VU will be something as simple as we'll only need Chris and myself working on it, and we won't need anybody else. But then there'll be times where I'm like, look, I need, a model fixed. I need more hands on deck so we can have, up to 6 at a time working on Cyrene. So it really just depends on what projects are going on between the two branches at that time. Which then answers how big is it? The team, it fluctuates. But at any given moment, who is always in the sandbox, who's always working on Cyrene on a permanent basis is Chris and myself. He is our lead. Everything goes through him. I'm second in command when it comes to the planet. If I can't make a decision on something or a final say, then I run it through Chris. Will we be having a VU? We will always have VUs. I can't tell you dates because we're just not allowed to talk about that. The main creative force behind the planet being, if you mean who came up with the concept of Cyrene, that would be Ed. This is his baby. He has worked on this long before the game ever even launched. The concept of Cyrene, the story of Cyrene is something that he has held very dear. And then he brought on board Chris, and they've been working on this since pen and paper. And, I've always been in the background helping out where they need help. I just recently, sorry, I'm coughing. I recently came to, I guess, the public eye, which is, for you guys, within the last year and a half or so when I took over communications, because to be blunt, Chris just doesn't have the time. He is all over the place. He gets pulled everywhere in every which way direction, and we needed someone to really fill that role, so I stepped up to do it. Creative Kingdom, though, came to be starting in 97. It is an architecture company. They did the designs for Palm Islands, the World Islands, a ton of work in Dubai. They did a hotel in South Africa. So their background is architecture. And then they branched out to do music and then, of course, the gaming aspect of it. So they've been around for a very long time. And they are still around, still working projects, still going as strong as ever. Were we old players? So Ed and Chris are. They played on the game before they launched Cyrene, before they were approached to do a planet. And then I picked up and I played a little bit here and there, but the rules of engagement kind of changed. They don't like developers playing the game. So when that enacted, it cut our time from playing. We cannot actively play the game. We're not allowed to. And I get it because as developers, we know where everything is. People we can't tell you where everything is. Some people have, of course, figured it out over the years. But imagine, if a developer jumped into the game and all of a sudden they're finding all of the rares everywhere. It's not exactly fair for the everyday player. So, to answer your question, they used to, I dabbled, and then MA said no more. Inspiration is from honestly our gaming history. The three of us have, we grew up on games. We still game to this day. Um, you can see there's a lot of sci-fi aspects of it. A lot of Warhammer inspiration comes from it. A lot of StarCraft inspiration comes. Um, and it's really, I guess you can say, we really draw on the games that we played, as kids, as teenagers, into our mid 20s, growing up. So it would be a lot of StarCraft, a lot of Warhammer, you know, um, some WoW aspects of it. And yeah. So our relationship with Mindark is pretty steady. It's pretty strong. There's talks of Chris possibly going to meet with MA this summer. And if we send someone from our team, it will be Chris. I wouldn't say they have us on a tight leash. It's pretty laid back. Mindark in itself is, contrary to popular belief, they're a pretty laid back company. They don't have a lot of, I don't want to say guidelines, rules, but they're there in the background, kind of lingering, if that makes sense. Um, we know what we can and cannot do, but I know it's frustrating for a lot of players when it comes to content for the planets that they like to play on. But what you guys also have to keep in mind is that Mindark is trying to balance for everyone, not just themselves. And that takes up a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of resources. So it does move at a pretty slow pace, but the communication is consistent. And that's what we need from Mindark. Tough hitting deadlines. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. We operate, at least on Cyrene, working a VU ahead. So we always know what's coming. Um, we try to communicate with Mindark, hey, we want this, not this VU, but for the next VU. Can we make sure everything is ready? And for the most part, things usually go fairly smooth. So we hit deadlines on time. I think there's only been a handful of times where we couldn't hit deadline with something, so we had to pull it and wait for the next VU for it to be launched. But it's not that hard so long as you stay organized. And that's the key, I think, with a lot of things. What do I think about the UE5 update? I'm excited for it. All of us are. I don't think there isn't a planet partner that isn't excited for it, because with UE5 comes not just aesthetic upgrades, visual upgrades, but the engine itself will give us so much more room to do so many other things. Yes, Oko. Um, what do I think of the meta investing zillions into the metaverse and the future of EU? I mean, so I touched on this briefly this morning, and really, if you think about it, EU was the first metaverse. They've already been doing what the metaverse is trying to do. So is anything really going to be that much different? I highly doubt it. And again, if you have questions, just throw them in and I'll catch it. But I'm going to start going through the lists that people have been asking. So I'm going to lump shops with the apartments. And right now, we aren't releasing them only because we're waiting for the heads, the higher ups, to decide how they want to go about it. And that's really just all we're waiting for. So once they tell us what they want and how they want to go about it, we'll be able to launch it and get it into players' hands. What I will say is it won't be the way that we did the booths. That was a special occasion because it was the first time that we released something on Cyrene planets could tangibly own. Any plans for the hub revamp restructure? So the hub is its own beast, and I think we all know this. There's a lot of stuff that we want to revamp and we want to see changed and we want to see updated, but it comes with a higher balancing cost that we need to bring more into discussion with MindArc before we can really jump into the hub and start changing things around. Aesthetically, I can change things around all day, but the hub is its own entity, in a sense, separate from Cyrene, which is why, you can't wear planet items or universe items inside the hub. So we have to work more with MindArc when it comes to changing and revamping the system itself for the hub. Unfortunately, I can't control what players put inside the booths and the upkeep that they maintain on it. As much as I wish I could to make sure that things stay lively, we're not allowed to. So Genesis Beach is part of an ongoing project. I don't want to say too much. It's coming. I don't know if it'll be ready for June because there's kinks within the system that we need to work out with MA first before we can fully release it. It is coming and it will be here. I just don't know if it will be for, the next VU. The biggest roadblock, as in altogether, Hallie, or for something in particular? For all. So I would say, because everybody has their different roadblocks. For me personally, my biggest roadblock is without getting into too much trouble here, the system itself. The Cry engine really doesn't allow us to do all of the things I would like to do. So that's for me personally, that's my biggest roadblock. I will say, as of right now, we don't have plans to move the ARC vendors outside the hub. Only because it is its own entity there on the hub. But what I will say is, if we can revamp it, if we can change it the way we would like it to be changed, then possibly. There is an idea about a shrine that randomly pops up around NGU PvP region. Shrine cores had goodies to be claimed. There's a way to get more action in there. This idea dead. Plans for lootable PvP. Um, I'm gonna have to ask Chris about that one because I don't know what that one is. That one I will get back to, and I'll make a note of it. So, Rana Cave will, as of right now, probably not be getting more buffs. Um, Only because we don't want to put our full focus into it. There will be more areas like the Rana Cave, a revamp of areas that will be coming in future VUs that will be rolled out. And possibly different buffs will be coming from there. So you could pick your poison. Which area do you want to get the buffs from? So that's a really good question. You're asking any plans for missions related vendor items. So this has been a really big, just vendors in general has been a really big point of contention for me personally. When I am in game, it is the biggest question that gets asked to me all the time. And I told you guys that we're working on a system to replace it, to figure out how to bypass or just nix the vendor altogether. And what I can say is we found a way to go and do that. It's been approved. So the Tannock vendor will no longer be there. You won't have to wait for it to get restocked. If you're on the mission, you just do another one to state, I have this item. It just checks all the boxes. And if you do, and you completed everything, boom, you turn it in and you've got your weapon. So, in short, the Tannock vendor will no longer be an issue for people because it's just gonna go away. So, the Roy Volker gear, the different pieces will take you to different NPCs and you get a bit of a backstory on him. There's also a shrine to Roy inside the Arc HQ building up at the top by the armors. And if you have the full set and you talk to him, you get a buff. So, any more static animations? Hey, I'm happy somebody found him. I didn't think anybody like really hung out in the ocean. Um, if it fits the story, 100%. That's just something. It just brings life to an area. So if it fits the story and we can get it in there, you can be sure that I'm gonna put it in there. So somebody asked, what does the near future Cyrene look like in the next coming upcoming VUs? So in terms of content, fixes, just rolling out a ton of fixes because I want a smooth foundation, like in terms of mobs. The mobs should be in specific areas according to their environment. But when we condensed from, a few servers down to one, we didn't have time to really organize that whole situation. We just had to get everything onto the planet. So I've been slowly taking it kind of area by area as we revamp it. And then I, will modify the mobs accordingly. It's a tedious ongoing process. We've got a ton of mobs on Cyrene. So I'm getting there, Once we've got that foundation done and we've got zones working as planned, then we will start doing um, bigger changes that affect everything in terms of missions. And not to say that we won't be doing missions in between these changes. Of course we will. So, this gives content for players. But I'm trying to get the planet cleaned up aesthetically and organized, you know, that makes sense for the mobs and getting the mobs fixed, such as, fixing their animations so they're not randomly running away when you're trying to melee them. Because the cleaner our foundation is, the smoother it will be for us to transition into UE5. I would like to open up other servers. Chris does too. This is something that we are, continually always talking about. We have ideas in the works, but nothing that I can really share and speak on. What single aspect of current Cyrene are you the most proud of or happy about? That's a tough one. So because I deal a lot with the aesthetics of the planet, with I do missions and everything as well, but I would have to say just the revamping of areas, adding in music, adding in sound, um, taking old areas and bringing them back to life, feeling, giving the planet like it's, been lived in. What do you think of the idea of contacting another planet partner and having a cross planet mission event or something? I would love doing that. As planet partners, a lot of players think that we actively work against each other. That is far from the truth. Um, we would love to be able to work even more so with other planets, to do cross mission platforms, to do, events together, something to make us feel more like a unified game than our own separate entities. But, with that comes structure, it comes with, the engine working with us. So that's going to take some time, but yes, it's something that Cyrene is completely open up to. We would love to work with the other planets. Some time ago, the ArcDev mentioned that their planet weapons were underwhelming in the current meta. Does Cyrene have any plans to rebalance their limited weapons? Yes, we are always trying to look at the current state of the game and upgrading our items to fit the current state, because your items need to grow with your player, right? Um, it doesn't make sense to put in all this work and then, in like a 20, 30, 40 levels, that all that time and all that work you spent doing acquiring that item is now useless. We would love to see your items grow with you. Um, the Thai holiday went really well. It was actually very quiet, which was strange. It was the New Year, the Thai New Year, and it's called Songkran, and it's their big water festival. But with COVID, they did not allow people on the street splashing each other with water. There was no drinking. It was very, very, very quiet, strange Thai New Year. I just stayed home because I'm a bum. So I mean, between not feeling well and trying to get rid of this cough, I was done. I pretty much slept. Rebalance weapons and BPs. Yeah, and this comes with the last question. We want to see our items grow with the players, as they should. I mean, that's the stance that we take here at Cyrene, and it's something that we're always pushing for, and it's something that we're always trying to, gently remind Mindark that, you can't just let current items go useless, because it's hard getting new items in. So why not let us take our currents and upgrade them? And I mean, for the most part, it's gone very smooth. Minarch has been very open to it, which is how we were able to get the little utility upgrade for the FAPs. And, more upgrades and more changes will be coming in the future. So somebody asked, are new epic quest chains in the works? The short of it, yes. There's always new epic quest chains in the works. Because they are in the works, there's not much I can really say about it. I don't want to say, yeah, we're going to get XYZ. And then if it doesn't come, then everybody's just angry and bitter. So, yes, they're coming. What's coming, I can't say. Are there plans to make more uses for existing materials, mainly talking about Cyrene exclusive hunting loot / ores? So, yes. Um, if you've noticed the last couple of VUs, we've been using a lot of existing materials, such, for an example, you've got the blueprint textures that uses, I think claws are in there. You've got a ton of animal oil residue in there. So we are looking at the items that just pile upon, the planet that players may or may not have tons of just sitting around, and we're trying to find more uses for it on top of incorporating more animal oil residue because it does drop so often. We want to see these items used. Could we get some additional arc badge missions, bigger mobs, bigger kill counts, and bigger badge rewards? So, yep, we see you, Bella. This one is tricky because bringing in bigger mobs, people are obviously going to want more badges from it, right? I mean, it only makes sense. The problem in doing this is our badge system is not new. It's at least 7 years. And you've got people who have been on the planet doing these badge dailies every day. So how do you introduce a new mission that now suddenly gives 5 arc badges without spitting in the face of players who have been doing these dailies already in the from out the gate? You don't want to, it's a difficult balance. You don't want to burn your old players, but you don't want to exclude the new people coming onto the planet, right? Um, so as much as we would like to say, yeah, sure, it's easy. Here's a mission, then you'll get, 2 to 5 badges, no problem. It's not realistic. There's a lot of balancing that has to go on the back end to make sure everyone is happy and nobody feels cheated. Yeah, I mean, we talked about doing stage missions such as this, but there's still that underlying worry, that people will be still frustrated and irritated, and the new people really wanting these missions, that really doesn't help them. You know what I mean? So it's a lot of back and forth. It's something that, Chris and I have been talking at nearly every day. So we could just find something that makes everyone happy. Can we expect Imperium faction missions with the new engine? So it's really early to say what you guys should and shouldn't expect from UE5, only because, some things just don't end up working out, whether they don't get approved or, the engine itself can't handle it, or, it's just not fitting the vision anymore. There's a lot of factors in there to say, hey, you guys will get XYZ, but then if it doesn't happen, now everybody's pissed. So, yes, I would say expect something. To what degree and what level, I'm not really sure as of right now. I have a fair amount of badges and I would like more missions, but since I have a fair amount, I'm also fine with how it is right now. Just a personal opinion. Yeah, Soko, and I mean, if the masses were okay with that, then it makes our job easier to just say, yeah, I mean, here's stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. It falls in line with how we do our missions anyway, so it would be easy to introduce that, and I think players would be used to it. It's just I need to put more feelers out there within the community before we really decide. Any plans to fix the little aisle where Lazadil spawns? Players get stuck. So the first time I heard about that was this morning. I didn't know that happened. And Monday when I get to the office, and then, I'll get in there, I'll deep dive and I'll test it out to see where I get stuck, how I get stuck. If you guys can provide any screenshots and toss them my way, it'll just make it easier and quicker for me to get that fix going through for you guys. I mean, maybe many events awarding badges. Maybe. I mean, I don't think people would be opposed to that so long as it's done right. So I'll bring that to Chris and we'll talk about it. But the key here is, making sure it's done right. But yeah, I mean, maybe. Bella. Any chance the ice golem spawn could be increased? Yeah, I mean, I can take a look at it and see how many are spawning in the area. Yeah, that's not a problem. Actually, give me a second and I'll put a note of that down right now so I don't forget to do it tomorrow. Okay. Um yeah, terrain stuck issues are kind of everywhere. Um yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Rick, but I also see where players are talking about it being frustrating where, they jump into the water and then they get stuck on the cliffside. I have been just sort of casually trying to fix everything each time, a VU comes out just so everything is smoother. I mean, I want people to enjoy their time on Cyrene. I don't want them to get frustrated and get irritated about getting stuck on something. Okay, so somebody asked, when can we expect arc rank 4, 5, and 6? So, yes. I missed that one, Bella, but I'll have to go back and see if you do. Um, so the rewards have been worked on. Um, we finally got rank 3 out there and working. Um, we've got some fixes coming to the vendor to stop vendor camping. Um, basically, it's they're in the works. First our goal is to fix the vendor camping, and then we'll get in the next drinks after that. Increase ice damage on ice golems so JVK suffers like the rest of us. I'll just sneak one in there that's like really, really, really strong. Yeah, I mean the land where the land meets the water can be a smoother transition. I mean, I don't want every area like that to be so smooth. I mean, because then it just creates, a beach feel throughout the entire planet. So some areas will be a cliffside and some will be a more smooth transition. Are there any plans to add new types of golems? So it would have to fit the theme and the need of the planet. Right now, it's not on the table, but it's not off the table, if that makes sense. We're not actively trying to find reasons to bring in more golems, but we're not opposed to it either. So if the need comes where we design a new area and it's, hey, golems would really, really fit this area, let's make a, you know, let's see, we've got wind, fire, ice, maybe a water guy, it really depends on what comes in the future VUs. Can you show us some Unreal Engine work this year? So I would love to. Chris and I have been diving into UE5. Chris more so than any of us. He is being the lead. He needs to be on top of everything. He wants to show you guys something. He really does. But it comes down to a time issue for him. He's never in one place for more than like 20, 30 minutes at a time. Some days he gets pulled all over. So when he gets a chance, we will post something up. A lot of the retexturing stuff will, it depends really. I mean, if we have some downtime, we will retexture some things as needed, but in large, we'll probably wait for UE5, um, because we're gonna have to be upgrading it again anyway. I asked for folk in Metropolis 2 years ago. How is that coming? Um, sure. I mean, honestly, I know you joke about it, but there have been times where I really sat there with Ed and Chris and I was like, you know what? This would, in all honesty, it would be a lot of fun to make. Will Hunter Caverns ever charge for the proper items? So, what the Caverns started out as and what it's become, it doesn't make sense to charge the entry fee. Um, we are talking again. Hello, welcome back. Um, but we are working on additional uses for the items. So we're not going to be changing it, but we'll find more uses for it. Um, any more caverns in the plans? So yes and no. Um, yes, in the terms of there will be something like the Hunter's Caverns. No, as in it's not going to be exact, if that makes sense. I mean, if players are just wanting something with, that's the same thing with higher maturities, and different creatures, that's something I can absolutely talk to Chris about and, see what we can do. Maybe make it a new arc badge daily area. Go in there, kill so many bombs, get your arc badge. So, I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to say selling buffs inside it, but something. can we expect reduced cost for arc limited vouchers? Example vouchers plus animal oil residue for limited guns. So I don't have a solid answer for this. It's something that's back on our radar and we're looking closer into, but I don't really know. I don't really want to say what you guys should and shouldn't expect because, it really depends on what gets approved and how much of something gets approved. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, what gets approved affects how our content comes out. Does the Cyrene team plan to do any events this year? So um we have one big event that I know I can talk about. We are really wanting to bring into the works. It's a collective idea of ourselves and watching the chats, about what you guys like and what you guys don't like. But we have to get it approved first. So we are waiting to meet with the event coordinator for Mindark, and then once we have that meeting, then we'll see where we can go from there. But that being said, you guys might have noticed Big is on Cyrene now. They'll be doing the sweat circles. Um, and we will be teaming with them to hold events on the land area. So events are coming. They are coming. We are working with Big to make sure that happens. But we do have our own separate events that we really want to see push through, something that can be done yearly, and something that players can look forward to and have fun doing. So we are always tracking the Rivox stage and how it's going. We know it's something that's going to take a while for players to get, but Chris and I are keeping a close eye on it. And if the engagement is there and people, are liking the weapon and they want to see it unlocked, and if a lot of people are pushing to get it unlocked, then that's something we can take to Mindark to say, hey, can we possibly make this, universe wide? And take it from there. But, we do. So it's like chicken and the egg. Chris always says that. To get this weapon opened up, it takes resources and it takes time and it takes planning. Um, and that takes away from other content that could be going out. So if we put all this energy into it and then nobody ends up wanting to do it anyway, then that's just, it's, to put it blunt, it's a waste. So we need to see that engagement first before we could commit to pushing to get it, unlocked universe wide. Are there any example of things being approved that you guys have slept on? Well, what do you mean by slept on? Let's start there. Any plans for the Undersea Falcon? There are plans for the Undersea Falcon. Not acted on or finished. So one of those would be vendors, getting them fixed, getting them removed if we need to get them removed. We've got, I wouldn't say something that we necessarily didn't act on or didn't finish, but things that Mindark hasn't really had time to dig through with us. So, like loot, for instance, it's something that I'm always pushing and constantly pinging them about. Um, that's in the works too. We've got some tester stuff coming out to see how well that's going to work out. We've got some upgrades coming that are being worked on, that have been approved already. What upgrades I cannot say, because that's pre-information that we're not supposed to be giving out. Is there any interest in creating mobs that scale to player level? Testable how pet strong life still they can kill things now. 2-3 years ago nobody would have thought possible. Some less common mechanics, for instance. So I don't think the system currently can handle that. It's not something that I've personally looked into, but I can. But I don't think the system can handle it. So that would be more of a UE5 thing than a current system thing. Can we have a new PvP with large amounts of oil residue? Yes, Bella, it's coming. I think that is the most common question that you always ask me. And we're working the oil residue into, future BPs that are coming out to make sure that they have plenty of use. To be fair, Bella, that's the most questioned from you. Don't get me wrong, it's funny, but you're the only one that asks me. But maybe it's because you're the only one comfortable enough to come to me to say, "Hey, Shawna, are we getting this?" Can we expect higher level limited items like rifles, pistols, swords in the loot? So I'd like to give higher level items, but it's not something we can just say, "Hey, Mindark, put these in the loot and have them drop." Because it is a combat item, it requires balancing within their entire system. So it's not easy to get stuff like that approved. It really isn't. And this isn't any fault to Mindark at all. This is just they have to make sure that it doesn't take away from the larger picture of the amount of weapons that are already currently out there. So while I would like to see them, you know it's not that easy to put it into the loot system. Any plans for the new mining finder amp we're always working on new ones, mining tools included. But we have to be careful about not making the same items that already exist. So it's an ongoing discussion with Mindark. There's a lot of times where, we'll say, "Hey, we want a mining amp that does this," and they're like, "Hey, Arcadia already has that," or "Next Island has that already," or so then it doesn't make sense for us to do it too. So we're going down the list of what planet already has what and what can we introduce. Those were all the questions inside the thread. So if you guys have any questions, just throw them out there. I'm happy to answer. Oh yeah, the Fenris Armor in the new UE5. I would love to see the Fenris Armor in UE5. I would die to see it in UE5. You guys don't know how much this armor means to me. Um, and it's something that we're going to push for, and it's something that we really, really want to see there. When will it come? I can't say for sure because, we have to see how it works within UE5 and if it's going to work the way we want it to work. Because ultimately, we don't want to just throw something out there and it's, for lack of better words, complete crap. So, it's coming. We want it. I really, really, really want it. Um, and it's something that we will be pushing for. So, one of the questions that I got kind of randomly was trees. When will we be getting trees? And the short of it is in the upcoming VU. We finally have a way that the trees that we finally picked the trees that we want to see used with the coming of these shops and the apartments. Will obviously be coming our decorative items. So we need our trees to be out there for people to be able to cut them and collect the resources. So our trees are coming. They are ready. We already have our little tree lumber guy that you guys can talk to, and you guys will be able to see him. Let me see if I have. So I linked a picture inside the chat. Keep an eye out for that guy because that will be who you talk to for all the lumber stuff. The Mario and Luigi platforms. You can thank Chris for that. He did it. I mean, are the platforms really that hard? I don't think they are, but I think, the constant testing of things and changing things around in that area aesthetic wise, I'm jumping in there a lot, so I'm used to it. But I mean, come on, it's not that bad. Can we reduce Lazadil's speed so it doesn't push your avatar backwards? I didn't know that it did, but I will take a note of that right now and get back to you on that. Will there be beards too? Sure. Power armor like Fallout. Minus 59% speed, support weapons. I mean, I've been in Fallout a lot lately, and their power armor is pretty fun. But I coming into this community, I wasn't sure how you guys would take to it because I know everybody is so used to hearing from Chris, and there are some players that will still to this day refuse to hear anything I say unless I have a direct quote from Chris. So, for everyone else, I really appreciate you guys, welcoming me in within the community itself. And I want to continue to build upon open communication. I know that, Kingpin is, you know, some of my answers are PR-ish, but I mean, you have to look at it from my perspective as well. I'm trying to answer you guys the best I can without divulging too much information. And I don't like players not getting answers to questions that they ask. Um it's it's not a good time for anybody. And sometimes I just we're not allowed to answer, and you know, I'm pretty honest about, hey, I can't talk about that. I can't answer it. Sometimes I push the line a lot to get you guys some answers. So you won't always like what I have to say, but I always try to be as honest and open as I can be. Um, I can't say how shops and apartments will be given out only because we don't know how the heads want to go about it. So it's still an ongoing discussion internally within the Cyrene team. But once I do know, I'll be able to come and tell you guys. I did put a reference into the game about your bear head. I don't know if you caught that or not. It's in the Rana cave. A couple of them will randomly talk about furry faces. But the trees that are coming will be around the mining island. I tried to really keep it together. I mean, I don't know, in my brain it made sense. People doing their mining dailies can, you know, cut some trees while they're at it. If it doesn't work out, I can always move them, adjust them to a better location, but I'm hoping it's going to work out just fine for you guys. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns? Now it's time. Really quick. The official launch of the SSI Sweat Circle will be happening on Cyrene tonight. Um, I will be spawning some Cliffords for everybody out there. Probably not spamming like, you know, 4 or 5 at a time. I think they want to try to sweat them. I'm not too sure. I hear there's also going to be a little trivia event while that's going on as well. I mean, I've seen people sweat Clifford, so I wouldn't put it past it. But that will be happening at 1800 game time. I believe that's in a couple of hours. So look for it in the yeah, in game. So yes, Ed really wants to recruit new players into the game, um, to just be more the commonplace player, I guess you can say. But the trick is, EU is not an easy game to learn. The pull is there. You know, the appeal is there. Who doesn't want to make some money while they're playing? But the caveat is you need to put in money to make money. And a lot of people come into this game thinking they don't need to put in anything to then make something. And it's confusing to them at first. So, yes, he wants to bring in new players, but with that comes, really guiding them on how to properly play the game. So my hopes is the community will welcome in these new players, and you don't have to divulge all your tips and tricks, but be gentle, be nice. They're new. They're trying to figure it out. And you're welcome, Soko. I'm more than happy to do this for you guys. I don't know if we would do this every month. I can't imagine. I mean, at some point you guys are gonna run out of questions, right? So maybe like every other, we can get together and just kind of regroup and have another talk. Oh, Soko, Kitty's coming for you. Well, I'm happy to hear that, Hallie. Like I really try to help the new people coming in, and I might not always say something in game, but I'm there a lot. Pretty good chunk of time. I'm just quietly watching everybody, and when somebody needs help, it's nice to see the community coming in and answering their questions, and it's not always left to Chris or I to fill in those gaps. So it's been fun for me to watch the community grow. I'm so proud of you guys. But yeah, to recap, our big goal as of right now is to fix the mobs in terms of each being in the proper environment. We will be revamping areas. We will be making new areas like we did with the Rana Haven. With that will come, different types of daily missions that you can just pop in, quickly do. Um, I wish I could say, we have these big plans for changing the arc badge system, but how do you introduce a new system without burning the old, making people feel their time has been wasted? So, it's a delicate balance. And, I read every comment, every suggestion, every bug post, every post on the forums. Like, I am all over and I see everything and I do pay attention. I might not always respond to everyone all the time, but I do see you, I do hear you, and I'm constantly bringing your feedback in when we have our meetings internally. I mean, to be fair, Bella's kind of a snob. I'm joking, of course, Bella, don't yell at me. Can we make the Imperial armor customizable color slash texture? I mean, technically we could. Maybe if enough, I guess, if enough people really truly want to. So, I don't know. And my stand, I personally don't want it to, because the Imperium armor is supposed to be, you know, it's hold a prestige within its own right. But I will talk to Chris about it. See what he says. Oh my gosh, a cow texture. Could you imagine that? Someone running around in the Imperium armor. All denim. Oh no, the 90s coming back. Okay, I'm nixing it now. I do not want to see an all denim Imperium outfit. Oh, to answer the question about is there anything we in the works or approved that we shelved or forgotten about? Yes, clothing. All of this talk, see, it popped into my head. Clothing. I know that we have some limited clothing items and we are working so that you guys can seamlessly change it to unlimited. Because there's no, I mean, it's a clothing item. There's really no reason for it to be limited. There's no buffs on it. It doesn't impact anything. It's all visual. So yeah, we're going to be changing the clothing items on Cyrene to be unlimited. More so the blueprints, we're going to be phasing out the limited and bringing in the unlimited with the unlimited clothing. Yeah, I I looked into that, Bella, and um it looks like a base model texture glitch, which would be on my dark side. So when I dig a little more into it and I can figure out, what exact phase combinations, why it's triggering, then I can take it to Mindark and say, hey, this is happening. This is why. Is there anything we can do about it? But chances are it'll probably wait to UE5. I imagine most texture upgrades, most texture fixes will come in with UE5. Pleak Feather Imperium armor. Run around the pleak colors. That would be kind of cute. I want to be a pretty bird. I mean, maybe I can put out the feelers to Chris and see what he says. Ultimately, it's got to go through Chris first, and then we take it to Ed, and then we take it to. But don't you have cat ears, Kitty? Or am I thinking of? Oh, I'm thinking of the next island, Kitty. Sorry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cat helms, wolf helms. Now, are we speaking in terms of clothing or something with buffs on them? Stats. Just give me ears. I don't need stats. Um, I mean, maybe the non combat items don't really require balancing, so it's easier to get those items in. Something we can look into. Talk to Chris about. I don't know if it'll be like a cat or a wolf because it does. Well, the wolf technically fits. It wouldn't be like a furry wolf. It would be more mechanical. Yeah, it would have to fit the aesthetics that is Cyrene. Otherwise, it wouldn't really make sense. A bug helm. A Zen helm. Toxic jelly spawns need to be moved to OP. What do you mean? No. Need to be moved. Where do you want to see them moved? Ah, okay. Yeah, the toxic jelly spawns, because of the pristine, we will be revamping those specifically and moving them. Also increasing their spawns. Just start dropping them on Bella randomly every time he logs in. I mean, the one day I threw a random Clifford down just to see what players do, I felt really bad because it killed a lot of people. So after that, I just kind of stopped. Like, one poor unsuspecting guy just walked up to it and he got one shot, and he just kind of looked around like, what the heck was that? As funny as it was, I felt terrible. So, I mean, the people that I know are okay with it, I tend to drop random mobs on them. Um, the other people that I'm unsure about, I kind of test the waters with. I mean, I pop around on people randomly all the time. Sometimes I'll just jump in and they're sweating and I toss them a heal. Or, if it's somebody I know, then I'll drop like a random mob on them and then run away. I mean, you say that, Soko, so now like you're open to it. And if I see you and a Duke comes dropping out of the sky, you cannot get mad at me. But I know some people playing just want to, get in and do their thing quietly and they don't want to be bothered. So I try to leave them alone. But the more vocal people that I see talking in Discord and talking in chat and that are on the forums a lot, I'm more familiar with them. Those are the ones that I tend to drop mobs on randomly. While everyone else will just pop in, throw them a random heal, and then I take off. The biggest time you won't see me doing stuff like that, though, it will be during events. I do random dev spawns upon request, every now and again, where if I see that everybody's trying to kill the like 8 Cliffords that are out there and they're having a hard time with it, I do jump in and I heal to try to help everybody along, but it's not often that I will sit and do that. More often than not, I just kind of spawn and then watch from the distance. But you will never see me do this in a PvP zone. You guys are completely on your own there. I will not intervene. I will not help. I will not, because I mean, it's PvP. Player versus environment, it's a little different. Player versus player, either you've got the skill for it and you can survive, or you don't. But that is something that I will never intervene with. I still wouldn't be able to intervene with a PvP situation. The easier question would be, what is Chris not doing? So, again, he's our lead. I'm his number two. Um, he does everything. And I mean everything. Nothing gets put on the planet without Chris's say so. And, 60-70% of the time, it's Chris doing it himself. From missions to working in UE5 to mobs, new mobs, doing mob spawns. It's just easier to say what he doesn't do, and that's the aesthetic aspect of it. I've taken that one over completely. So why I also do missions and mob spawns and whatnot with Chris. At the end of the day, I'm the one designing the areas accordingly. So if you get stuck, I'm sorry, but you know, I do, I do listen to you guys and I do talk to you guys, and I try to bring back stuff that I didn't think was really necessary, i.e., the little plateau off of the supply depot. But I brought it back. I brought it back, and it's there, and it's better than it was before. No, he didn't do all the NPCs alone. Oh, that's another thing that's going to be coming after the iron missions are completely phased out. I will be, well, not just myself, but Chris and I will be going through to replace all of the unnecessary NPCs so your mini map isn't so overwhelmed. Um, Chris is on the forums. He pops in. There are some questions that I will specifically ping him for because I know people would prefer to hear from him rather than myself. So, I mean, he is on the forums. He does respond. Little MC is not playing. He's not active. Um, he's doing some real life stuff with him and his wife. And I mean, you can poke him in the Discord, say hello. I don't know if he'll respond, but I mean, you can poke him, say hi. Iron missions will definitely be deleted. I don't think epic missions tie into the iron missions. I'll have to go back and revamp, but I'm pretty sure that they don't. So the epic missions should be fine, but the iron missions will be removed because of the codex. So codex is handled by Mindark. Whether and it gets extended or when or how is really based off of them. All we do is say, hey, these mobs need to be introduced. Which reminds me, I did poke them about the Empis Wasp. So hopefully that will get mix up, will get handled and they'll be inside the codex soon. Well, I mean, she does count, but I understand the want to have, all the little guys working, and they should be, so this is something that we want to make sure gets done. But yes, make sure you finish your iron missions because once they are gone, and they are gone, we will not be revamping them because it wouldn't make sense because of the codex itself. So they're kind of not needed. Um, I don't know. How long do I think the new engine is gonna take? I don't know. To be blunt about it, there's not much they really talk about for UE5 right now. I mean, we can all speculate and we can all guess, but at the end of the day, I don't know. I'm sure when they have more of a plan and more of a handle on a timeline that they want to do, they'll release it to everybody. But as of right now, I don't know. Yeah, all I can say about UE5 though is we're all very excited for it. And what about spec? What do you mean? I know, Soko. The first engine change was kind of hard. Um, and this one is going to be a big change. I mean, UE5 it's no joke. Um, if you're running on a hamster wheel of a PC, I mean, prep yourself because with UE5 you're going to need to upgrade. So okay, so I can't say for sure what specs you will need exactly because every game is different. It depends on the route that Mindark wants to take. But I would definitely say be prepared because, again, if you're running on a hamster wheel, you will need to upgrade. And that's just the bottom line. I wouldn't say invest in anything as of yet because, maybe UE5 won't come out for another 2 or 3 years. Well, there's going to be a whole new set of CPUs, GPUs, you know, um, motherboards that you can pick from and choose from. And, so I would say hold off on any changes as of right now until we really know. Especially with the price of graphics cards, I would definitely recommend waiting to see what you guys as a player will need in terms of specs for UE5. Because, I mean, obviously, what we'll need is higher than what, the average player will need. So, my advice wait, see what specs you'll need, and then go from there. Don't jump into anything yet. The biggest issue is the connections in terms of connecting to the game itself. Oh no, Kingpin. I mean, definitely if you're on a toaster oven, aka the hamster wheel, you're gonna have to upgrade. Yeah, and the actual connection itself. But that's, not something I can really recommend here nor there. It's different for everybody. I play on my fridge. Yeah, 2 cans and a string definitely won't fly. I cannot recommend enough changing from that. But I mean, some people can only work within the system that their country provides. Like here in Thailand, ooh, we ow. The connection sometimes is terrible. So terrible. But it's not all the time. So we touched on that briefly. While we tossed around the idea of upgrading the Tyrillian Assassinator specifically, we need to see player engagement for that item first. If there really is a call for this item, then we can, put in the resources and the time and, setting up meeting dates with Mind Dark to say, hey, we really want to see this upgraded because look at the engagement, you know, but without that data, without that feedback, we can be walking into it blindly, push for an upgrade, and then nobody does it. So then it's wasted time, it's wasted resources, and it's a wasted upgrade. So we have to see the engagement first before we commit to upgrading it. Um, so I talked about this, I don't know, maybe tonight or it was this morning, but we would like to see, weapons and, FAPs and healing tools and everything upgrade with the player to grow with the player. Because at the end of the day, you're putting in all this time, this manpower, these hours, the ped to acquire an item and you want to be able to use it. So, in a realistic world, in a perfect world, you will forever be getting missions to upgrade that item in particular to make sure it grows with you. But that comes with its own balancing challenges within the entire Entropia universe in itself. So while it's something we want to do, it's something that requires more back and forth with Mindark before we can really push to see that happen. But yeah, I would love to see upgrade chains for our weapons, for our FAPs, to watch it grow with the player. I mean, we all want to feel that we're being rewarded or we're being treated fairly. And on Cyrene, we really tried to be fair. But, we have to find that balance between the player base, ourselves, and Mind Dark to ensure that that happens. And sometimes, it works out great and sometimes not so much and we miss the mark. But ultimately, yeah, we would love to see our items grow with the player. Upgrade my code's lifesteal 69%. Oh, lordy. I mean, but on a serious note, yeah, I would definitely like to see the coats getting upgraded. I mean, you want to have your stuff and you want it to feel good. Like, yeah, I got this. And, as my skill grew, my weapon came with me, my coat came with me. of course, it would be fantastic. If the gun had more DPS than the current top weapons, but with Cyrene only, a lot more players would work hard to get it. At this point, there is still many alternative options, though likely players will do it on the sidelines over time. Yeah, I mean, I imagine players will do it on the sidelines over time, and this is a very fair statement to make because there are, tons of alternative options. But at the same time, that kind of becomes our mm, I don't want to say competition, that's not the right word, but you know, when we release an item, players will ultimately always compare said item to another item, be it coming from Cyrene or Next Island or Arcadia. It's something we're always looking into, but to be realistic, it's not always so easy to introduce an item and make it, the best current item that's out there. But, that's also, being said that we do try our best to pay attention to see what the other planets have and to stay in line with them. At Cyrene, we very much view the planets as sister planets and not direct competition. We we view the other planets as planets we can work with. I mean, at the end of the day, we all have the same goal, right? We all want to make the game as fun as we can and make players as happy as we can. And in my opinion, the best way to do that is by working together collectively as a universe instead of separate planets. And as time has been going on, we've been doing that more and more and more and more. So my hopes is in the near future or in the future, all the planets will work together collectively to just better the game for everyone. So it's not a competition between everyone, but it's all us collectively working together. So wholesome. I mean, be it cheesy or whatever, um, we all have more to gain from it, right? If we're all working together and we all have a common goal in mind, it only makes the player experience that much better. Where's your magic potion that causes enemies to drop more loot? If you find that magic potion, please send it my way. Coat with 1% better TT returns win. I mean, in an ideal world, right? I mean, it's an interesting stat. That would be crazy if we could have that, but I don't think that's currently in the system. Forget TT to returns drop rates in general. So let's address the elephant in the room, right? Loot. Um, and to put it out there, we don't control the drops. We don't have a say in it. It is all exclusively done by the Mind Arc balancing team. We can say, hey, this item is clearly not dropping the way that we agreed or we planned, or, it's not working the way we thought it would. We need to revisit this. And they're always open to it. But we the way we address it is very, we collect data. I'm not sure how other planets do it, but for Cyrene specifically, we get reports on everything. Every planet does. So from number of mobs killed to number of missions done to the number of items that dropped, we get it all. And the high demand items that we feel should drop a little more, i.e., elephant in the room being the pristines, um, I keep track of everything. And I present these numbers to Mindark to say, hey, you know, we feel these should drop more. And while I will say that the higher level items, like the wiles, for example, shouldn't be dropping as often, the Penalian should. You know, it doesn't come with, it doesn't come with buffs, item sets. So it's not I guess what people would view as a higher tier item. But what you also have to take into account is how many players have what of what item. You know, there's a lot of moving parts in the background. If they allow something to drop a little more, or if they add something a little more, how does it affect the overall for every set that goes out? You know, there's a lot of nuance that goes into it. And I know everybody hates it when I use that word, but it's the truth. It's not so easy just to say, make this item drop more. I mean, that one item dropping more could effectively put a ripple in the whole balancing act of items in general. So there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not a cut and dry system. So while we can poke MA and say, hey, can we please revisit this? And they're always willing to listen, it doesn't always mean we can get those changes pushed in. Another example being shrapnel. We can ask for more shrapnel to be dropped. We can ask for less animal oil residue to be dropped. But at the end of the day, if they don't want to do it, they don't want to do it. Or if it's working as intended, it's working as intended. But I do listen to you guys, and I do, you know, keep all of that into account. But I think what people also forget is, just because you specifically aren't getting a drop doesn't mean they're not dropping. Magic find, like in Diablo, would actually be pretty interesting. But I could also see it backfiring a lot, like it did in Diablo. Do I know the damage spec? Not offhand, Bella. Epic mission chains for coats that match the Imperium armor sets with buffs would be nice. I mean, it would be a good way to upgrade the coat. Now that we're on the subject of elephants, anything about armor gate that needs to be said that can in fact be said? Nothing that I can say. I mean, I've pretty much told you guys everything that we know for sure on our end. There's, you know, obviously information that we're not privy to ourselves. So I've kind of told you guys everything that we know. Also, speaking of the coat, while we won't be changing the little glitchy thing that it does, how it sticks out at the bottom of your armor, um, in the Cry engine, it is something that we are looking into for UE5. We will make sure that it gets fixed. A lot more people have run speed than I initially thought would have it, which was very interesting. But I mean, I guess I should have assumed more. No, I appreciate that you asked, Hallie. I really do. I mean, it's better to ask and get some sort of answer than to, not ask and have it be constantly in the air and just have it grow into a point of contention. So, no, it's a good thing that you did. Personally, on the Cyrene team, we really like lifesteal. Chris, in particular, loves lifesteal, and he would really like to see it on more items. So that could be something that might be coming up in future items if we can get it approved, of course. But yes, definitely lifesteal. I think lifesteal is a fun one. Oh, the hub only coat. You know what? That is a good point. Um it is a coat that kind of has been forgotten. You are 100% correct on that. And I will definitely point this out to Chris and bring it to his attention and see if we have any plans in the future for it. I know that we tend to treat the hub like our redheaded stepchild only because the hub itself, excuse me, the hub itself is treated as its own entity. Um which is why you can't wear um planet items, universe items on the hub while you're automatically stripped of it. It's a system that Mindark wanted, and I see and I understand why they wanted it. They want to keep things fair, but I also understand the players' frustration for it because it does strip you and it does cost Ped to put stuff on because you inevitably have to repair it. Um, but the hub is its own beast, and it's one that we want to tackle, but it's one that we have to tackle with Mindark because they have their own regulations that they want to see in place for it, and I understand why they want those in place for it. But it's something that we'll be looking into with the revamp of the planet itself. The hub is part of that, and we will be looking into it. Yeah, I mean, Cyrene only unlimited lifesteal amps. So when it comes to planet bound items, I mean, really, the assassinator was our first planet bound item, right? And we wanted to see how players took to it, and it is probably by far the easiest way to get something that requires balancing on into the game, because it is only used on the planet, so it really only affects the planet. Um, but I understand players' frustration of not wanting to deal with that, right? It benefits those who exclusively play on Cyrene, and it benefits them greatly. Um, it could make life easier for people who come and visit Cyrene, but where do you draw the line? At what point do you make items strictly planet bound, and then what items aren't? Like, people ask why we didn't make the Imperial armor avatar bound or planet bound. And at the end of the day, it's because we like, universe wide items. We don't want things to be avatar bound. Because we know that people rent out their gear to other players, and you need to have that. But it's it was something we wanted to see. It was something we wanted to test. Um, Maybe if, as the player base grows, people will be more open to the idea of a planet bound item. I know I'm kind of talking in circles here. I'm kind of thinking out loud, but it allows us to customize more. You know, customize an item more tailored to the mobs on our planet. And it could be easier for players, or it could, at the end of the day, ruin the experience for players. In my honest opinion, the hub isn't interesting as is. I need a pretty high incentive to go. Yeah, I mean, the hub isn't for everybody. It really isn't. What we wanted the hub to be and what it turned out to be is not quite the same. It's not the true vision that we had for it. We're not unhappy with it, but we're not ecstatic over it. It is something we want to revamp. Yeah, and planet bound items allow players to perform better on planet they specialize in, of course, and that's the the end goal, isn't it? You want items that you create for your planet to be great for your planet, and it's a bonus if it's nice everywhere else, but it just makes it harder to get into the game. If there is no other way to get it improved, it's better for Cyrene bound or Avatar bound for limited items. I mean, it could be, but if we can make it not bound, then why not try to push for that? Because I know that's what players ultimately want, right? Um, but I think we need to test the waters more. I think we need to make items more tailored to the planet specifically, if that is in fact a route that we take. But ultimately, we don't want things to be bound. Was the issue in the hub with one player being void from giving kill points and one being unable to get kill points fixed? No, it hasn't been, because we do need to sit down with Mindark to figure out exactly why that is happening. They had a big hand in making the hub, so we have to poke them and see exactly what's going on with that. And it's not that we haven't, but with UE5 coming and the managing other planets, and helping other planets come to be their own entity, Mindark has been pretty busy. So we're waiting for all of this stuff to get into to the works again. I mean, I thought it was fixed, but players were still reporting that it was not. So I'll run some tests again to see, and I'll try to do it soon. I would like the Turelian Assassinator as is, make it usable universe wide, but give it some cool buff or elevated stats if used on Cyrene. I mean, that would be a really cool idea too, but you know, then it becomes how do you change an item when it's on the planet? It gets that specific buff. I don't think the system really can really handle that. I'm not sure if other planets have done something like that before, but maybe for something we can look into for UE5. If you sit with MA, any chance you can poke to fix support weapons. Your view notes always include the unknown issue that support weapons are not currently working. Probably this is a platform issue. Support cases don't do anything. Um, fix support weapons. You mean like the ballistic weapons, i.e., rocket launchers? So that's an actual platform issue. It's not something we can fix on our end, but we do, like you say, any chance you can poke Mind Dark, we poke them about it, and we'll poke them again. Any new, any plans for new Goss grenade and plasma rifle and pistols? Um, we always have plans for new ones, but it comes down to a balancing issue and what we can get approved, really. So while we want to see these items, at the end of the day, we've got to get through balancing to say yes, okay. I mean, are people really using plasma that much? No, that's the point. Touche. So, Mind Force Chris wants to. He's got a couple of ideas that's been stewing in his brain. When and if it will come, I'm not too sure. It's not on the forefront of everything that we're trying to get done right now, but it is on the list. There just isn't any weapons that we can use, but Goss and Plasma are a very cool concept. Okay, that's fair. Well, Mind Force was revamped. Now we need better melee, and then why not Goss and Plasma? I will say we need better melee. And with that, we need to fix the mobs that tend to just wander off when you're meleeing. So we're looking into all of that. Yeah, level 300 is very far away, I think, for the larger chunk of players, for the vast majority. I mean, that's kind of how we looked at it, Soko. 100 plus, and you can go from 0 to 100 in half a year with pills and codex. So when we made the assassinator, we kind of had that in mind, and I think what okay, so when we make epic mission chains, we're not making them as content to zerg through. And by that I mean something to bull rush through. We make it as, it's something that you can do alongside with other things on the planet. And that makes it easier with the codex, right? Um, the Assassinator is another prime example of that. It's not a mission to bash your face against and grind for, because it is a higher level. People don't necessarily have that skill as of yet, but as they go through and complete the mission, they will have, by the time they get to it, they will have the level for it. Yeah, I mean, in a perfect world that would be great, right? You have a long-term goal, and we try to, well, not try to, but we are trying to actively get players used to that idea, that you've got a long-term goal set in mind, right? That it's not just an instantaneous reward of like, okay, I shot a couple things, I want my stuff. But it's something that, you have a goal. You have, something to do and something to look forward to. But getting other players on board with that idea, I notice, is a little harder than I anticipated it to be, but it is something that we are trying to get people used to. I think it's more getting the current player base on Cyrene used to that idea. That, long term goals are okay to have. You don't need to zerg everything immediately and get frustrated bashing your face against it. You can enjoy your time working through it, knowing at the end of the mission that item will be there. It's okay to have long term goals. Yeah, you're very welcome, Soko. Thanks for joining. Are there any questions, comments, concerns? And I mean, also know that you don't have to wait for these to come and talk to me about anything. You can always poke me in the Cyrene chat, send me a DM, send me mail in game, on the forums. I'm everywhere. I try to make it super easy for you guys to get a hold of me if you have any questions or concerns. You don't have to wait for something like this to come to me directly. You can come to me whenever. Some players are used to that already, but for everyone else, know that I make time to respond to everyone as quickly as I can, and I'm pretty prompt about it. But yeah, don't be afraid to reach out. I'm always willing to listen. So long as it is constructive, right? Cuz that's the key. If it's not constructive and it's just people yelling into the wind, I can't really bring that feedback back to the team, because at the end of the day, what is the feedback in all that chaos? But if we keep things constructive and we have a conversation, then, I can take that and bring it to the team and say, hey, Chris, this is a really big concern with the players. How do we address this? Your guys' input, your comments, your concerns, your wants do have a direct impact on the content we make, whether it's adjusting stuff that we are currently working on or working your ideas into the system itself. So player feedback is huge for us, and I always look forward to it. So I'm always, my door is always open. There will be a sneak peek for next VU. We always have one, but it will not be during this. Only because it's not fair for the people who are used to having it done a certain way. This is by far the thing I love the most about the new era of Entropia, the communication. Yeah, it's for me, communication is key. You know, I want to make content that you guys enjoy, and as a developer, having my hand on the wheel and my ear to the ground, listening to you guys makes things, it gives us a little, I don't want to say an advantage, but I mean, it kind of does, right? You're not just speaking to the wind here. You're talking to a developer that has her hand on the wheel and can make these changes actively. So, come to me, talk to me, tell me what your thoughts are, what your concerns are, and we can address them. But if you don't say anything, then, how would we fix the problems that are there? Yeah, the dark years were real dark. There were things happening in the background that didn't allow Chris to openly talk to you guys the way that he wanted to. And then with the shift in things within the company itself, Chris got pushed to a higher role, and I kind of filled, took on his, tasks and duties while he gained more, if that makes sense. So part of that is, coming to you guys and being integrated within the community. But I'm rambling at this point. The point is, if you guys have questions, if you're worried about something, come to me, talk to me so we can work this out. This isn't just the Cyrene team, it's about Cyrene as a whole. And your feedback can really make or break what we do. Just remember, be constructive. Get your point across without me needing to shuffle through you screaming into the wind. And I can meet you halfway. I mean, yes, yes and no. There are some people who are very passionate about their opinions. Um, and it's not to say we're like, oh, well, this guy is super vocal, so he clearly knows what he's talking about, and we need to do what he says. No, it's not based off of one person, it's based off of the collective, right? I take all the feedback and I see what's really being said. And I am trying to be polite. Um, it's not really good for me to be like this asshole, you know. It's not okay. Um, but you know, I hope everyone gets it. But I do listen to everyone, and we do take the masses of what is being said, and we take that into consideration, and we don't just base it off of one person's opinion. I mean, I try to stay neutral as I can. Um, I don't take what you guys say to me personal, and I think that's key. Everyone has their own opinion, and everybody's going to see things their own way that is beneficial to themselves, right? The trick is finding that common ground that doesn't just benefit that one person angry yelling, but the society as a whole. But I know that there are certain things that make people more prone to scream and yell than anything else, and one of those is loot. You know, at the end of the day, if loot feels bad, man, then it feels bad. But, that's not something I can actively control. But that's the constructive part of it, isn't it? It's getting past that ego. Right. I mean, you could go on and on about it. I mean, there's a number of people that can, but I don't think it's fair to say that, we're all talk and we don't listen. There's a line that I draw in the sand, right? And that's to accuse the developers of not truly listening to the players, of not truly communicating with you guys. Because we are one of the few planets that have always been as open and honest with the player base as we could be out the gate. And we pride ourselves on that. So when people say that we don't listen and we don't do anything, it it does it's hard to not take that personal when so much of our time goes into making these changes that players request. But because one person might not be seeing that change to benefit themselves specifically in that moment, they will make that bold statement in the heat of the moment. And I understand that things get said when people are angry. So again, I try not to take it personal, but there's a line, you know, if you're going to be a blatant dick about things, at some point I do have to say, let's cut the shit here. Let's be honest about it. And I think that's only happened maybe once or twice in the history of me being here openly talking to you guys. because I don't like to police the chat. I don't feel like chats should be policed. We're all adults. We can all handle ourselves in a calm manner. We can all communicate on a level where we can be neutral with each other. We might not always agree, and you might have to agree to disagree, but I mean, that's part of being an adult. And I truly expect people to behave, as an adult. Let's not take things personal. Let's not take pot shots at each other. I very rarely have to come into chat to say, okay, enough is enough. And I don't like to silence you guys. Everybody has their opinion and I want everybody to feel like they're heard. But there's there's a line you can't cross. And let's be civil to one another. Thank you, B. We really took that into consideration when we re-released the armor. We really wanted a solid number on how many armor sets were out there. We needed to make sure that old components could be used still, and that they were used still, um, and that people who, bought like the Big Bird wings, for example, to try and churn them to flip them for markup, didn't feel like they were screwed in the process. So we made sure all the old items would be reused, plus, the mix of the new items, the pristines, to make the crafting process, not even the crafting process, the churn-in process feel more complete.
Yeah, this is the
But the goal in bringing the armor back was to make sure people didn't feel screwed. The colors were kind of everybody collectively involved with it. I mean, if you like the colors, the whole team was involved. If you don't like the colors, 100% it was Chris. When I wrote about the Skylab's retexture, I was referring because it really feels like it's not metal. Yeah, I mean, and that change will come in UE5. We'll really be able to get the textures looking, the metals looking like metal, the wood looking like wood, sandstone looking like sandstone. So, aesthetically, I am very excited for UE5 and I cannot wait to transition to it. But I know that the Imperium colors aren't for everyone. I've heard them referred to as mailman blue to bus driver yellow. You know, I think it's fun. We need some UL Roy Volker back in. So the UL armor is something that is on the table still for Roy Volker itself, but how how we want to introduce it is something we're still working on, and we want to um, revamp the stats on it. Which overlord? That would be Mindark. Ultimately, they are the overlord of everything. I mean, I say that, but like I tease, but it's not to say like everybody spam mind art. Don't do that. At the end of the day, it's only gonna hurt things. But in a playful way, yes. But in a serious way also, yes. Mind art gets the ultimate say. The only thing I can say is what I have been, I'm watching them, I'm keeping an eye on them. But I mean, loot at the end of the day is not within our control. I do want to say we've got about 20 more minutes, and then I do need to close the stage down because I will be in game spawning some Cliffords for the SSI. Which, don't forget, they will be having trivia as well. So if you're interested in something like that, you should poke them and join in. We gave them some stuff to hand out for prizes. I get that it's frustrating. I really do. And I really wish that we had the power to change that. And in a sense that we do that, for us to come and remind Mindark gently that, hey, can we see an increase in drops for these items? But there's a lot of background balancing that comes with it. Stop item seems very wonky sometimes. Hope MA is working on the scalability. I mean, they might be. I couldn't say. I really don't know. There are plans at future for more use at mining ores plus end matters. There are future plans at using Cyrene specific mining ores. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head, but yes. I'd like to suggest the perfected armor to be customizable. I mean, I like the white though. Maybe a tentative maybe. It's I can't pull the trigger on that decision. I can only bring it to Ed and Chris because they have the ultimate say. I'm not opposed to it, but I will be kind of sad if it's, the white is supposed to stand out. But again, I'm not the one wearing it. You guys are, and if you guys want to see the perfected to be customizable, then, and maybe that's something we can look into. Come Monday, I'll grab the poking stick and I'll just jab at Chris until he starts paying attention. That is true. I mean, you guys are pleading a nice case here. Well, I mean, that's the beauty of it being customizable, right? If you want to leave it white, you can leave it white. If you want to change it, then you can change it. I guess now I'm like arguing on your guys' behalf. I mean, you can't really argue with that logic, right? I'll bring it to Chris on Monday. I'll talk to him about it. But definitely, I mean, if you want to leave it white, you can leave it white. It truly is a win-win. It is. Jill likes to be 8 shades of grayer, I'm sure. Oh my. You're right, Killer. You are right. If you want to leave it white, you can leave it white, and it's the best of both worlds for everybody. Customize it if you want to customize it, white if you want to leave it white. And because it's an aesthetic change, I think it's one we'll be able to change for the armor, and it won't be an issue. I think. Don't quote me. I think. I'll have to talk to Chris more. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure everybody has their favorite color, and when you guys get to perfected, when, because it will happen. I'll be damned if it doesn't. When you guys get to perfected, you'll be able to change it to whatever color you want. 2050. Oh no. Why do you have to jinx it? Don't jinx it. About renegade components and pristines, wouldn't be better mission for them to obtain instead of the factor luck? Um, well, I understand the want to have certain things be dropped, um, and certain things coming from missions. It's it's something that we'll have to further dive into, if I'm honest. I don't want to say yes or no either way, but there are things that are currently out right now that are drops that we are actively working into turning into missions. One of those being um, the weakened and lesser crystals. Will it be done for sure? I don't know, because it is something that we do have to balance right. We need to be careful about how it's done, and just to make sure that it's not that the greater doesn't lose its value, if that makes sense. So internally, it's something we would like to see, but it's something that we have to be very careful about. There are only a few customizable armors elsewhere, so a new one would be good. Added bonus for the planet. 100% it would be. I mean, I can't argue against it. I mean, it's having it customizable would be pretty nice. I think it could be done for, say, 1 mil pet cycles or something, and it has to be stupid amount to make it mildly fair. And even then, it won't, because bots will farm the missions. You can't compete against machines. I mean, let's just spitball here. Let's think out loud together. I mean, we could change it to where it's a mission you do once a week, or a mission that you do every 2 weeks. It can't be a daily. I'm putting that one out there right now. There's no way it can be a daily. But I think there's a way where it can be done eloquently and be fair. But it's just about finding that nice internal balance to make sure that the greater power crystal doesn't lose its markup, because then a lot of players will be really upset. And that's kind of the challenge at the end of the day, right? When you're dealing with existing items, players have built a certain utility around certain items, whether it be renting it out or farming to sell it, or what have you. If you come in and change an item and it ruins that market for them, it will upset a lot of people. And let's be honest, the more people that speak up are the people that are upset. So we have to be careful about how we change existing items, or how existing items are acquired to be more accurate. Right, the greater good could be upset too to make 50 happy, but more often than not, what we assume will make the masses happy, in fact, makes the masses really upset. So it's about putting the feelers out in the community and getting actual feedback on the content and what you guys would like to see collectively as a whole, and not just, one person dictating how it's going to be or how it should be. Because at the end of the day, if only one person is giving their feedback and only one person is privy to give feedback, they highly skew it in their favor, right? And that's something we need to avoid. Could have an epic mission chain to cycle through to get one renegade comp or pristine and then repeat, while leaving the getting lucky on the current drops. The chain just needs to have some cycle amount that otherwise is used to determine a drop. I mean, potentially, yes. For example, it could be the same such as looking out or settler's life missions. I mean, right, it could be, but we also have to take into account that it's not just about balancing it for the better of the players, but we have to meet Mind Arc halfway as well. But this is, something we are actively talking about, trying to find a more elegant solution to the current system that's already out there. And then the machine wins. Um, Not if you make parts of the mission in PvP or on mobs that you can't auto hunt, like current epic chains. So, what I have learned and what I see people fear is the PvP zones. Um, a lot of players don't like them. whether we need to revamp the area to make it more fun. We also want to make it fun for the people that like to PvP. You know, it's risk versus reward, right? The reward needs to be worth it. That being said, we do want to breathe life into the PvP areas. We haven't forgotten about it. It was kind of pushed to the wayside a little bit, but we do want to bring the areas back, breathe some new life into it, and that'll come with the revamping of the planet as a whole. But I do understand not wanting to be forced into a PvP zone. But if given the option, players will always choose not to walk into the PvP area, right? They don't want to be hunted. They don't want to deal with the PvP aspect of the game. And I understand that. It's not for everybody. But for those that do like it, maybe, we can have an on planet event in the PvP area. And I say on planet, so it's, actually on the planet and not in the hub. Cyrene's lootable area is interesting because of its size, pluses and minuses. I think it's the smallest lootable zone in EU. I would believe that, but we're also not we're not a big planet, right? In comparison to every other planet in the Entropia universe. So we wanted our PvP zones to fit the size of the planet. And as the planet grows, maybe the areas itself will grow too. I mean, my background in games is PvP, and I looked forward to it. I really enjoyed it a lot. I understand it's not for everybody, but I mean, there's a ton of stuff that I would like to see PvP wise on the planet in an open world situation, but that would require more space. So it's something that would need to be done in the future and not something that I can do now. But I mean, I have ideas, but the goal is to make it fun. So maybe to get people's feet wet in the PvP scene, it would be like do like a we'll have like a mini event for the PvP area specifically. But all this is remains to be seen, and we have to we have to work with the Mindark um, event team to see when we can do it, how we can do it, if we can do it. Which I mean, let's be honest, for events, they really don't have any pushback as long as we're just transparent about everything. So I'm sure we'll be able to do it. But I do need to go because I need to get ready for the SSI sweating event that's going to be happening on Planet. So feel free to poke me in Discord if you have any further questions. Poke me in game. I'll be there as well. Um, But thank you for being so welcoming into the community itself. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate everybody being so patient. And thank you for joining the mini AMA. And hopefully in the future we'll have more of these. Of course, you're very welcome. It was fun. And then maybe in the future we can have more of an open discussion with, multiple people talking and not just me rambling up here. But yes, I'm going to go ahead and close the stage down and then I will catch you guys in game and on Discord. So have a good day, everyone.